Hey, it's James Lynch. It really seems like Islam Makahchev's next opponent is going to be Kamaru Usman, and we got a few more details courtesy of his manager, Ali Abdelaziz. We're going to go read some of the quotes here via MMA Junkie and Championship Rounds with the transcription here. So we'll kind of read everything here, and then I'll give my thoughts and also show you guys some reactions to some of these tweets as well. So it says here that first, that Islam Makahchev was offered to headline the UFC card in January, with Kamaru Usman and Ian Gary being considered as potential opponents. This is according to his manager. Even the UFC reached out to me. They were asking Islam to fight the main event in January. He thought about it, and Habib said, hey, shut up. Honestly, Kamaru's name was in the mix for January. Ian Gary's name was in the mix too. Okay, so a couple things about this. First and foremost, why are they getting the UFC to fight Islam so quickly after his last fight? He just fought in November, like end of November, and now he's going to turn around and fight end of January. I don't like, this goes back again to the UFC short-term thinking. Like, why are they rushing fighters to get back? Like, I don't think there's any need for Islam to fight that early unless it's a case of him wanting to get back in there and fighting right away. If that's the case, then fair enough. But this, again, just looks like the UFC's scrambling to come up with a main event. And I know that Topuria is out, and we talked about this already, about how this was kind of a wild card with Topuria going through his separation and needing personal time off. So that obviously clogs up like one of the big fights that they were going to add to that card. I understand that, but that's my first thought when I'm reading this. It's like, really, they're going to get Islam to have a quick turnaround like this? Because it is kind of quick, right? Like, fights end in November, and then he's going to fight into January. I just think that's not like a ton of time to get that. But the second thing that stands out to me is that he mentions that Ian Gary and Kamaru Usman are in the mix, which is something we sort of figured. Now, I've been campaigning for Ian Gary. I think he's, deserves the shot based off merit. It's interesting that we're not hearing Michael Morales' name. I don't know if he's injured or not, but just the fact that he's undefeated and is coming off a pretty impressive knockout win over Sean Brady. It's interesting that that name was not floated around. So some of the evidence we're getting here is that, yeah, it's going to be Usman or Gary, which we kind of already knew, but to hear it from the manager and kind of confirm it makes some sense. So that's the first part of this, is that, it certainly seems like, we're trending towards an Usman and Islam fight, and Gary, to be fair, does not have his next opponent booked. Then the next quote we have here from Championship Round, same interview, says he will campaign for Islam's next fight to be against Kamaru Usman. Well, duh, he reps both fighters. Kamaru Usman has done a lot of things for this company. I will campaign for him to get the title fight. What the F has Ian Gary done the last couple of years? Kamaru Usman is a legend. He was offered Shavkat last November. Kamaru accepted the fight. Kamaru is one of the biggest names in the division. When you're Islam Makahchev, you want to have a legacy on your name. So this is where I disagree with Ali. And before I get into everything else, just so people know, him and I are good. For people coming in this and being like, oh, you're so biased against him, that's not it. I don't think he's correct in this statement, and let me explain why. So first and foremost, he says, Kamaru Usman has done a lot of things for this company. I will agree with him there. He stepped up. He fought Khamzat Chimaev on short notice back in 2023. A lot of fighters wouldn't have wanted that fight, especially up a weight class. Credit to Kamaru Usman for taking that fight. Full marks. Actually had a good performance in that fight. The party he's losing me on here is what the F is Ian Gary done the last couple of years. I don't know. How about be active? If you look at the last time Kamaru Usman fought, so he fights Chimaev in 2023, October 2023. His next fight isn't until June of 2025, which was this year. So almost, a full year off, and then a couple months in, he fights in June. He fights Buckley. Good performance, I'll give him that. But let's go look at the activity level of Ian Gary since the last time Kamaru Usman fought Khamzat Chimaev. So after October 2023, Ian Gary fought Jeff Neal in February. He fought Michael Venom Page in June. He fought Shavkat Rakhmonov in December. That's 3 fights there. Then this year, he's fought Carlos Prates, and he's fought Bilal Muhammad. So last time I checked, that's 5 fights compared to 1 for Kamaru Usman. If you're saying, what has he done? He's been fighting nothing but good opponents. These are all ranked guys. The Prates fight especially, that was dangerous for him. Prates was, undefeated in the UFC, had some devastating knockout power, and Gary went in there and got the win. And again, I don't like being the guy here defending Gary, but I have to acknowledge, just based off merit, what he's accomplished here. Fought a very close fight against Shavkat. If you go look at the stats in that fight, very close. And I know Shavkat had an injury in that one, but still, the fact that, Gary even made it that close, it was surprised a lot of people, including myself. Like, there was a lot of people who thought, sorry, not MMA decisions. I'm looking for UFC stats. That's what I was looking for. It's a lot of people felt like Shavkat was just going to steamroll Ian Gary, and that didn't end up happening. But if you actually go look at that fight, it's fairly close. Right? In fact, Ian Gary actually landed more significant strikes in the fight. Shavkat ends up getting more takedowns, but this is a fairly even matchup here. You can see Gary is in blue. So again, he fought Shavkat and I believe that was short notice as well. and took him to a tough fight. So this whole idea of what has he done the last couple of years? He's been active. He's fought good opponents, and he's won most of those fights. The only fight he lost was, like I said, a close fight to Shavkat here. So I don't get this argument. My big issue here with Usman, and look, like I am the guy for sure when it comes to, merit and stuff like that. Like Usman's been a champion before. He's defended his title a bunch of times. My issue is the last couple of years he hasn't fought. He took all of 2024 off. That to me is something that needs to be recognized. Yes, he beat Buckley. I'll give him that. And that's certainly better than him not fighting at all this year. But I don't even think that Buckley win is that good either, because, you look at who Buckley fought leading into that. I think he was a bit overrated, right? His two best wins are against Stephen Thompson and Colby Covington, two fighters pushing 40. So does that win really hold a lot of weight? And we haven't even seen Buckley fight since then. Like if Buckley had fought after that and maybe fought like a Prates or Brady or someone like that and got a win, okay, fair enough. But I don't even know if Buckley's a contender. So you could argue that Usman got one of the easier opponents in his return fight, and now all of a sudden he gets a title shot. I don't know. I feel like if there was no Ian Gary, if there were not other fighters here that have been more active, I wouldn't have an issue with Usman getting the shot, because again, I understand, like he's saying here, that he's a former champion, but you can't sit here and say that Ian Gary hasn't done anything. He stepped up a bunch of times, a couple short notice fights there. And all that. And yes, Usman is one of the biggest names in the division. I'll agree with him there. But this isn't 2019 or 2018, right? Like Usman is almost, other than his podcast, we don't hear a lot from Usman because he doesn't fight that much. So I push back a little bit on this. Saying all that though, I kind of feel like this is where we're trending, is that we are going to get this fight. Ariel mentioned this on his show yesterday that, Ali does have a lot of power at the UFC. We saw Justin Gaethje get that interim title fight over Arman. There is some push there. Say what you want about him. I've certainly been critical of him, and I'm being critical of him in this video, but he does have some pull. It just feels like this is the fight that's going to happen. And I'm just not that interested in this fight for the simple fact that, again, Usman not super active. And also Usman's 38. He's going to be 39 in May. Like, we're not getting the same Usman from 2019. We're not getting the guy that knocked out Masvidal. We're not getting the guy that knocked out Gilbert Burns. Again, full marks for that win over Buckley. Tough opponent, knockout power, all that stuff. But it's one of those things where I think there's just more deserving contenders. Like I would even understand a Michael Morales over Usman just for the simple fact that Morales is young and he's undefeated and he's got that knockout power. Like, is anyone out there, honestly, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Is there anyone out there that thinks Usman beats Islam? I don't. I think Michael Morales is a more intriguing fight because of that knockout power. Usman doesn't have that same power. Even an Ian Gary fight, like, I don't think Gary does anything spectacular. However, Gary is a good game planner. He does figure out ways to win. That, to me, I think would be more interesting and more competitive than Usman. So we'll see. But yeah, listen, I understand, again, Ali's going to back his guy and, back his fighters. And, it's two guys that he gets to see fight, and he's pushing for Kamaru. That's what a good manager does. And I think for Islam too, I think Usman is an easier fight than some of the fights that other fights that could be offered as well, just from an age standpoint, right? Like Usman's older. I don't know if we're getting the same Usman, like I said, that we got in 2019. So I understand all that, what he's doing here. The part that I don't agree with is saying that what has he done the last couple of years? He's done a lot more than Usman has. Again, the facts are the facts. Kamaru Usman has fought once since the end of 2023. That's it. He's only fought one time, and that's Buckley. He took all of 2024 off. I could understand, like, if there was fights that were offered and maybe he got injured. I know he was dealing with injuries, but we have to put that in context. Otherwise, why are people not advocating more for Shavkat to get the next title shot? Because if we're not worried about a fighter taking a year off, Shavkat's doing the same thing, and Shavkat's undefeated, right? To me, if you're supporting Usman for this title shot, you shouldn't have an issue if Shavkat's in the mix as well. And he's not. And Shavkat already came out and said, look, I'll fight someone else. He understands the game. That's fine. And I get it from Usman's perspective as well, because again, this is probably his last kick at the can as far as getting a title shot. So I get that. But yeah, you can't say that Ian Gary's not deserving. Totally disagree with his manager there. But again, we're good. There's no bad blood there for people thinking I'm being biased. I mean, tell me what Ian Gary has not done compared to Kamaru Usman. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you want to see this title fight between Usman and Islam, or would you rather see someone else? And if the fight does happen, who do you see winning, Islam or Usman? Let me know in the comments. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.